Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today. It's Carrie here at KRLC Studios, and today we are going to be sewing our signatures into a hidden spine. As previous, my other episode, I'd mentioned that I would be showing you a Coptic stitch. That is not so. I'm going to be showing you a pamphlet stitch. A pamphlet stitch only uses 3 holes in a signature using embroidery thread. So I'll be showing you that today instead of the other one. And hopefully you'll learn something and you enjoy the ride, and let's get to it. So we're on the home stretch. So today we're going to sew our signatures onto our hidden spine. I'm going to go through with you the supplies that you will need in order for you to do this. So first of all, you will need some cotton embroidery thread. You need something a little bit thicker than just regular thread because you're going to be kind of pulling it at taut. This can be any color that you want. I choose cream. You will need a needle. You'll need a needle with a pretty large eye. And this one's pretty long, so you'll need a long needle with a large eye. You will need an awl. Okay. You'll need some scissors. You'll need an X-Acto knife. You'll need a pencil. Another thing that you will need is double-sided tape. This, I believe, is a 1-inch tape, and this is like 1/2 inch. You will also need some bowl clips. Okay, these are about medium size. That's all you need. And you will also need a ruler, and this ruler in particular, because this is the Tim Holtz ruler. This ruler is for book binding. Zero starts in the middle, and what it does is that it finds the center of your spine and then has increments going on both sides of where to actually put or sew your signatures to. So this is a really handy dandy tool to use. I've had it for about a year and it's been a huge game changer for me. This, you can't go wrong, but you can use a regular ruler, but this just makes the job way easier. So you'll need a ruler. You also need just a plain piece of paper. This is just a bunch of printer paper that I have folded in half lengthwise. So you'll need some just regular paper. You will need something to use for your hidden spine. So this in particular is called Craft Tex. You can buy this online on Amazon. I believe you can get it in the brown, you can get it in black, and I think in gray. This is a bit pricey. For me, living in Canada, everything's pricey here. But and it comes rolled up, or you can get it in just the sheets. I prefer the rolled up because I do this a lot, and you really get a lot of bang for your buck for this roll. However, you don't need to use this Craft Tex. You can use, I've seen other people online use like just cardboard that you get from cereal boxes to do their hidden spine. So you don't have to use this. So don't go out especially if you're only doing this once and spending gobs of money just for doing a one-time thing. If you're really going to get into this and sewing signatures to a hidden spine, maybe this is a good choice, but you know, try the cereal cardboard boxes as a hidden spine and see how that works for you, and you know, save yourself some money. But I had bought this and I want to use it up, and it is great because it's very, very flexible and it's forgiving. So this is Craft Tex. So if you want to get some, you will also need your signatures, of course. You will need your cover, your book cover, and this little beauty. Now you don't need this, but I wanted one of these for a long, long time. To buy one of these is about like $50, and it's expensive. So what I did is I went online and I looked and looked and looked, and I found Nick the Booksmith online that you can get her pattern on her Instagram. I've put her link in my description, so you can go directly to her tutorial. She shows you how to make this. All this is foam core or foam board and hot glue and duct tape. That's it. There's a little bit of fabric here, but I just used some junk fabric that I had. So you will need a little bit of fabric, but she shows you how to make this, and wow, because you will need this to punch your holes for your signatures. So what happens is that this is a punching cradle, and you put your signatures, all of your signature, your group in there with a template, and then you get your awl and you punch your holes, and you can punch the holes through the fabric and keep on going. Like this will last, this cradle will last a long time. But I don't have a big foam book, because some people use a big foam book to put their signatures in and punch the holes. Because when you punch the holes, you want to make sure they go directly in the fold of the signature. So this cradle kind of helps me to do that and more precisely. So like I said, I've wanted one for a long time. I found her, I made this. This took no time at all. This didn't even take me a whole sheet of foam board. So yeah, if you're interested, please go to her website, to her tutorial, and she is awesome. So that is about all the supplies that you will need to do this. So before we make a template for our signature, we are going to cut out some craft text to make our hidden spine first. So I will need some craft text, and I need my book. So I open that up, I get my pencil. What I want to happen is that I want to measure the width of my spine, but plus I want to have about an inch and a half over, so that I can, when I glue it and attach it to my book, this will be attached to my spine. I've seen other people online to just do their spine and do other things. This is how I do it. I prefer doing it so that I have my spine a little bit larger and it does attach to the inside of my cover. That's just how I prefer it. Okay, so I put my craft text right there and I measure. So from this end all the way to here, and this is going to be about an inch. So this measures about 3 inches from this edge, which is fine. So I use my pencil to kind of make the notches of the width of my spine. And then the rest of this is going to go into this crease and be a part of this. So from that, I'm going to measure from here and measure here. Okay, so that's going to be my whole, that's going to be my spine right there, if that makes any sense. Okay, so then I'm going to put that about 1/4 of an eighth of an inch from my craft text to the top of my book. And I'm going to do the same here. Okay, then I'm going to cut it. And this is very easy to cut. Let's see. Just going to line it up. There we go. Line it up on my lines like that. That. And line it up on my lines again. Cutting it down. I try not to waste too much of this because it is quite pricey. But I've made a few books and this just kind of keeps on going and going and going. So it's been great. I can always cut it back if it's not straight. There we go. Let's see if this is straight on here. Yep, that looks pretty good. So I've already drawn my lines. So I'm just going to line this up like that. Draw very light. Okay, and see if that will kind of fit in there. Yeah, that should fit. Okay, so I'm going to get my X-Acto knife and I'm going to score. So scoring, I'm not going all the way through, I'm just lightly scoring the top of where I drew my lines. So these lines are the width of my spine. And then I want to fold that over on those score marks. Got my bone folder. Like that. So if this looks a little bit smaller than this side, I can just trim this off. The point is that this will go beyond my spine, and that's what I want because it will attach to the inside of my cover. Let's just trim that and we will come back. So I've trimmed this, and if I place it inside my cover, that goes really nice and it fits. It fits right in there, and that's what I want. Before I put my lines on here, I wanted to decorate this a little bit because I don't want the brown. I wanted a different color or do something with this. So we will come back and do that. So I've determined that I want to have kind of a scalloped edge on the edges of my hidden spine. So what I did is that I measured from the edge here, I measured about 1/2 inch in, and I drew a line. So I don't know if you can see that too well, very faintly. The length of my signature is 9 inches. So I am measuring these little petals to be 1 inch. So I should have 9 of them all along my signature. So I'm just gonna draw those in, and then I'm gonna cut them so that I can kind of have a scalloped edge. I made a little template to use to kind of go along. So I'm gonna do that on this side, and then I'm gonna do that on that side, and then I'm gonna cut them out. I'm gonna continue on all the way down and the other side, and then I'm gonna cut them out and I'll come back. So here we go, my scalloped edge. Okay, it gives it just a little bit more variety and va-va-boom. I've also went in here and erased those lines. What I've decided to do with this is that I'm going to paint it. I've never painted this, so I'm not sure how porous it actually is, and I might have to do a few coats. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it. This is buttermilk paint and acrylic paint, and I'm going to paint this and just see how that goes. Then I'm going to, after I paint that, I have these two brushes, and I'm going to use the ends of them because I'm going to use, I have here spun gold acrylic paint, and I have here baby pink acrylic paint. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put polka dots all over because I am a sucker for polka dots. So first of all, I have to do my coat. But before I even paint, what I forgot to do and would make it a lot easier is that I need to put my double-sided tape on this. So I should have done that before I cut my scallops, but that's okay. I can do it now. And then I will just cut around the tape so that when I paint, I can paint around these edges and then it'll be all covered. But I need the double-sided tape so that when I tape this down, these are completely taped down so that I can put it in my cover when I assemble my book. Like I said, double-sided. So I'm going to use the fatter, the 1 inch. I'm not going to put any tape in my spine. I'm only going to put it on the edges here and here because when I put the tape, then I'll cut these scallops again with the tape. When I'm ready to put this into my book, I'll actually use a lot of glue instead of tape to tape it into my book, but these are going to be taped. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to only tape it up to the folds here. All right, so I'm gonna cut this again, then I will come back. Well, that wasn't fun, but I did it. So there's the scallops, okay? Probably when I put it onto my cover, I'll probably also use tacky glue to make sure this really is on really well. So, lesson learned, if you're going to do anything with the edges of your hidden spine, put the tape on first, then do your whatever you want to do on that. If you just leave it plain, that's fine, but yeah, lesson learned. Okay, so on to painting. Okay, so this is dry now. So let's add our polka dots. And I think the second coat really helped it. So I'm gonna let that dry and then we will come back. This is dried now and it turned out really well. Just so you know, I added a little bit of other things to this. Now I'm going to determine the middle of this spine and determine where my signatures will fit. So I'm not gonna be writing any marks on the top. So I've actually flipped it over so I can see my marks and see my lines. So I have this ruler, as I mentioned before, and I'm going to come in so you can see this really well. I start in the middle of my ruler here, and I want to make sure that choosing the middle that I have the same amount of lines on this side and this side, and I'm only going to the edges of my spine. So I've taken my pencil and I have marked the middle of my spine. Now, because I have 6 signatures, I can't use this because then my signatures and where they will lay will be off. So I have already marked equally on each side of where my signatures are going to be. So I've marked this and this, this. If you can see that. So I'm going to use my black felt just so you can see this a little bit better. So here's my first one, my second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, and sixth one. So as you can see, my signatures are going to fit quite nicely, equally spaced apart on my spine. See, I'm going to run all the way down, actually, and do the same thing on the bottom so I can run a absolute perfect line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to draw a line all the way down, matching those notches. And after I do this, then we'll do the template for our signatures. Okay, so as you can see, this ruler is really handy because using a regular ruler, that kind of takes a little bit of getting used to, but this ruler sort of makes that, finds the center and makes that even, and I love using it. So now we're going to do our template. Now how we're going to do our template is that I just, as I mentioned before, this is just printer paper. I fold it in half lengthwise, and I'm going to put it on top of my spine. And first of all, I'm going to measure it exactly the length of my spine. And I'm going to be cutting some of this off. It doesn't need to be this long. First of all, I want to just measure where to cut that off. width of the template, we only need about the width of my ruler. So I'm going to cut that off because all this is a template with the notches that we need to punch through our signature. Okay, and that's what you want. All right, now that we have our piece of paper as our template, we're going to use this ruler again, and we get back on here, and now we need to determine where we're going to punch our holes. So I put the ruler, and my fold is right here. So I put the ruler right on my fold. Once again, I determine the middle, because I should have the equal amount of notches on this side and this side, starting from the 0 and working out. So what I'm going to do is, because I found the center of my template, I'm going to put a dot here at my 0, because that's the middle. And then I'm going to determine how far from each side that I should come in. So I am going to do 1, if you can see this, 1, 2, 3 notches down. And that's about an inch, and you want about an inch coming down anyway. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to do the same on this side, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and that's all I need to do for it. I'm going to use my black marker and just kind of go over these dots. Don't make them too big. I just need the dots. And those dots need to be on the fold. So if you can see that, those dots need to be on the fold, and that's where I'm going to punch with my awl. Okay, so moving on from that, now I need to take this template, I'm going to fold it this way so I can see my dots, and I'm going to take my hidden spine and put it on my hidden spine. I'm just going to choose one of the lines that I've drawn. And once again, I'm going to get my black marker, and I'm going to just draw those dots. So choose a line where those are. And now I'm going to, with the dots I've already made on my template, I'm going to put a dot on the line where that is, so that I know where to punch on my hidden spine as well. Okay, if you can see that. I don't know if you can see that too well. Okay, so I'm going to do that to all of my lines, and then we will come back and I will punch. So I have put my dots. Okay, I have to make sure that these lines are not my dots. So now I'm going to take my awl and going to puncture a hole through all of my dots on each line. So when I punch the holes, I like to push my awl all the way through to make the hole quite large, like that. Okay, if I just lightly punch it through, then it's going to be hard to sew it with my needle. So the hole is larger. I've seen other people use a crocodile to do it, but for this one I'm not going to do that, because for me it makes the hole just a little bit too large. But any other type of book that you would be doing, a crocodile would be perfect for punching holes. So for this particular spine, I'm just going to be using my awl. Make sure when I'm punching through, I'm punching on that line. Okay, if that makes sense, like that. Each of the 3 holes on each line, and that's what you want to do. So I'm going to do that off camera, and I will come back. There we go. So I punched all my holes on my lines. And that's what makes this craft text really wonderful, because with like regular paper or even cardboard, it might rip. This doesn't, because it's fiber based, and it's very, very forgiving. And so it doesn't rip. Cardboard or any other sort of surface might, but once again, that's your preference and up to you. But that's why I prefer the craft text, because it is quite forgivable. All right, so now we're going to use our punch cradle. And as I mentioned before, if you don't have a punch cradle, just find a really thick, fat book, like a phone book, and you can snuggle your signature down in the center of that and use your template to do your holes. But if you don't want to do that, this cradle is really super easy to make and very, very inexpensive. It probably cost me less than $3. One thing I wanted to mention as well is that before you start punching holes, you want to go through your signature and see if there's any pages that are smaller and that need to be centered in your signature before you punch your holes. This is a really good thing to remember, especially if you do like junk journals, because you might have different pages or different fold-outs or things like that. So before you punch, you have to make sure that all of your pages are relatively in the center where they need to be. If you don't want them in the center, if you want them down, lower, or up, so that two holes can be punctured in it, that's fine. When you get your signatures, the nice thing is that you can push it and it'll make it all even because it's pushed up against this board. So for me, because this is a smaller page in this particular group of signatures, I'm going to have it so that it's down at the bottom so that I know that at least two holes can be punctured through it. So I just want to make sure that that's there before I start. So I think that's all for this signature. So just really make sure, because you don't want to miss any holes. And so I'm just making sure that my signatures are pushed up or butted up against this, and it makes it all nice and even. My template is down here. So what you want to do is, what makes this cradle really perfect is that when you do punch your holes, that the holes go directly into the folds of your signature, and that's what you want. So here we go. First time using my cradle, so I'm really super excited. So here is my first hole on, and I punch all the way through. And I use my awl, and once again, I want to punch fairly larger holes. I don't want to go really soft. I want holes that are going to really be large enough that my needle will fit through. And there are my holes. See, perfectly right in the middle of my fold. Without moving my signature too much, I'm going to get a bull clip and I clip it just to kind of keep it all centered and so it doesn't shift around. And then I put that to a side. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate the second one for you, how we do this. So I'm looking at all of my pages. Now sometimes you'll have tabs and stuff that are sticking up. This time I can kind of go down because there's no tabs, so I can go down. I think all of my pages are relatively the same size. I don't have any smaller pages. So I'm going to put my template back on, and once again through my holes, and I'm pressing this down a little bit and putting my awl all the way down so I get that larger hole. Okay, take my template out, and there's my holes. So once again, I put this kind of together so it doesn't shift around, and I put a, well, because that's kind of large, putting that there. Okay, so that's my second one. I want to make sure that as I punch my holes through this, I'm putting my signatures in the right order. So this I've already have. This is my first one that I've done. And so this one I'm just going to flip over, and that's going to be my second one. And I kind of keep them on my desk like that. I just wanted to show you my third one here. There is nothing in here that is smaller except my fold out or my double spread. As you remember, this is free flowing. So I wanted to make sure that I have equal amount on this side. And then I'm holding this together and I'm making sure that these little petals are in my signature. There's nothing that's sticking out. Once again, I put my template down and I punch through the holes. I am so glad I made this because it just makes this so much easier and it's more precise. Okay, so without moving that too much, get my bowl clip, and I put it on top of my pile. This is my 4th one. Once again, I don't think there's any smaller pages because this was my tunnel one. So making sure, once again, I'm pressing all of my pages towards this. Put in my template, press it down so it's nice and in there, and doing my holes. Okay, closing that up so nothing shifts around. This is my 5th one, always finding the middle of my signature. And once again, just really making sure that all of my pages are the same length. So as you can see, some of my holes have gotten pretty erect. So instead of using a regular piece of paper, if you want to use a lighter cardstock to do this, that's fine as well. I still can see my holes. I'm still good. I have 2 left to do. I'm not too worried about it. So I have all my signatures. So this is my first one. This is my last one. And that's how I want to do it. When I sew these onto my hidden spine, you want to always start with the last one first and work your way up. And I'll show you how to do that. We're ready to thread our needle and to cut our thread for our signatures. So I'm just going to put these to the side. I'm not moving them because, as I said, I need them in that order from the last to the beginning. So I'm just going to move those up. Just going to take my last one because you will need one of your signatures to do this. So you're going to take your embroidery thread, and how I do this, I kind of turn it like that. I measure 3 times the length of my signatures. That just gives me a lot of room to maneuver and to tie at the end. So, and what I also do too is that I cut all of my thread for each signature before I even start. It just makes sewing it just makes it a lot easier, and it goes a lot faster. So I start with this. It's okay if it's off a little bit. So 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to use this as kind of a guide and do 5 more strings, and then I'll just keep them here. I have 6 strings or threads that I have pre-cut. So I kind of just put this off to the side, and it just kind of makes the work flow a little bit easier. I've already put my thread on my needle. I do not put a knot on my end. For my hidden spine, this is for my benefit. I've kind of tried to put the word back on it because I've done that before where I'm working and then I forget where I am. This is going to be the back of my signature, and as I sew each signature, I'm going to be working towards the front. It works better that way, and it seems less cumbersome when I do that. This is my last signature. This is my 6th signature. So I'm going to move my bowl clip, find the center again, and I'm just going to clip the side here instead so I can work around with it. Also, I have to be very careful that when I work from the back, this is going the right way. I don't want one of my signatures going the wrong way and then I have to cut it and start again. This is going this way, and then I'll be working towards the front. You have an option. For me, I like to start from the bottom, from the back of the signature. That way the ends of my string or my thread are at the back and I don't see them in my signature. There are some people that prefer to have their ends showing in their signature because then they connect charms or little cutouts to those strings. For me personally, it's a personal preference. I don't like that. I like my pages to be clean with no ends poking out or showing, but that's just me. So if you prefer, you'll be going in from the top of your signature so your ends can come through here. But for me, the ends are gonna be on the back. Personally for me, I like the ends being here and glued and covered because it reinforces the ends so that they don't eventually come out, because once this is glued in, it's glued in like really, really well. I go in through the middle hole first. with my thread. I don't put it all the way through. I make sure I have kind of like a little tail there. And then making sure I'm holding the whole signature unit, I find my hole. Don't try putting your needle through and making new holes because that's going to eventually wreck your signature. And now I put my needle down through the top of my signature like that. Okay, and I'm not forcing the hole through it. I'm using the hole that I already punctured. And this is my back. And so I used the first hole here, and as you can see. So I just pull it a little bit. I still leave a little bit of a tail. Okay, and try to put this in here. Then I take my needle once again, and I go all the way down. Remember, it's back here. Come all the way up, like that. Then holding this signature again, I come up through the hole that I made. So this part can be kind of finicky, which is fine. Just be patient. It's really good. That's why I use the bull clip. So I think with my next one, I'm going to use a bull clip on the bottom here too. You want to make sure that your signature or your pages don't flop and move around. And if you have to separate some of your signatures to kind of find that hole, then do so. It's okay. Then you go back down through the middle hole again. There we go. I'm going back through the same hole on my hidden spine. Putting it all the way through. Then you're going to flip it over. I no longer need my needle for this. So I just put my needle to the side. So what I want to happen is that I want the string that has come through my middle, and I want one end to be on one side and the other end to be on the other side, like that. Then I'm going to gently pull. Don't reef it or you will rip your signature. You just want to kind of keep it taut. Before I tie it, I flip it over and see that this is very taut. It's tight in there, but it's not ripping my holes. It's just very, very snug. As I'm holding that, I push this down and then I just tie a knot. I tie a square knot. So I tie it that way. Then I go back the other way and tie it again. So then it's from both. I'm still at my back. This is where I want it to be. And yes, I have a lot of left over, but it's nice because it helps you to maneuver and you're not dealing with small threads here. So this is knotted really well. So I'm going to just trim it like that and I throw the rest away. So when I glue this in, all of these are glued in, and because of the glue, this end of this knot is going to be reinforced and it will not come out at all. I have my back. I'm going to start with my second one. So I get to take my clip off. So what I found is that as I'm sewing and as I'm moving up, it really helps to clip these because as I'm sewing, I don't want these pages flipping and getting in my way. So what I have found is that to actually clip the signature again, to just kind of keep everything all uniform. This is my second signature and I've clipped it to the top and to the bottom. So hopefully this won't move as much as this did. There is my back. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to take off my bowl clips. So now that I have all of these two, I put those together and then I use a bowl clip to keep them all together as a unit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sew the rest in, and I'll come back and show you when these are all sewn in. This does get easier as you move further up to the first one. All right, I thought I would just go through with you and sew in my first signature, or my last signature as it were. So this is what my book is looking like so far. I used a larger bull clip to keep them all together.
I never make promises, 'cause I don't keep them. I never make promises, 'cause I don't keep them. 'Cause I don't keep them. 'Cause I don't keep them.
One thing that I have to make sure of is this, my two ends are on the opposite side. And when I pull, I make sure that my signature is right to my spine, see? And I don't want that, but I want to make sure that this is all in there. So if I have to pull the center, I will do so. There we go. Making sure that this is all in there. Once again, pulling it taut, but see, and that's what I want. My signature is actually touching and quite firm to my spine on this side. And that's what I want it to happen. If it's not, and it's really loose, you will have to cut it and do it again, because it just, your signatures need to be all lined up when you do this, or it's gonna look really horrible and your signatures will kind of flop outside of your book and it will destroy your signatures. There we go. So, took some time and some navigation, but there we go. So that looks very beautiful, and I have all of my signatures now sewn onto my spine. I won't be gluing these signatures into my cover until I actually decorate my cover. This is the very last thing that I do for my book. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode in sewing in our signatures to our hidden spine. Our next episode, we're going to be decorating our cover for our book, and I'm really excited because I love doing that. So please join us next time, like and subscribe, and come on back when we do the cover. We'll see you next time.